New developments in the IRS scandal. That is right, there is more. The agency claims it has lost even more emails from 5 former employees who are under congressional investigations. This after Republican Congressman Jim Jordan said hundreds of server drives could contain missing emails from Lois Lerner, who is at the center of the scandal. Joining me now for a fair and balanced debate, Fox News political analyst Angela McGlowan and former chief of staff to Senator Joe Manchin, Chris Kofinis. Thank you very much for joining us. Angela, when is the Department of Justice going to appoint a special counsel for its probe into the IRS targeting scandal, considering all this new evidence which clearly shows there were multiple instances of the investigation being compromised?
Julie, I think we might find the missing plane, Malaysian plane, before Attorney General Eric Holder appoints anyone to this. He's put so many other priorities over the scandals. And remember, President Obama ran on the fact that he would hold his administration accountable. There would be transparency. He was going to change Washington, D.C. as we know it. But remember when he interviewed with Bill O'Reilly, he said there wasn't a smidgen of corruption at the IRS. So if the commander-in-chief is not believing it, then why should the Attorney General do anything about it?
Chris, go ahead.
Well, I mean, it's tough to defend, missing emails because it's pretty confusing, I think, to most Americans.
Pretty suspicious.
Well, I mean, at a minimum, it's inexcusable. It definitely does not help the storyline that that this was simply just some kind of mistake or something. People just find it hard to believe how emails go missing. That being said, you have multiple congressional investigations ongoing right now. I think before we have to get to the point of talking about a special prosecutor or a special independent investigator, I think we wait for these investigations that are both being, in the House and in the Senate. Let's see what they find, and then once we have the evidence, I think we can determine whether we need to take the next step.
But we know that they've managed to find and recover 14,000 emails for the 5 staffers by cross-checking other officials' accounts. They did it the same way by discovering 24,000 of Lerner's emails. So if they can track most, why not all? It seems very selective, and again, I want to go back to the word suspicious.
Well, listen, I'm not going to sit there. I think it's a fair point to say if you can't find the emails directly because of some argument that your computer crashed, clearly you can find it through the second-hand recipients. And I think that's a fair point, and that should be done.
Lois Lerner said she didn't do anything wrong, but she pled the Fifth before the congressional hearing before the House. And Congress is not a one-trick pony. We don't need to have a hearing both in the House and the Senate and have other investigations. Julie is right. She's correct. We should have an independent counsel. Let me finish. We should have an independent counsel look at this because at the end of the day, we're paying all these people's salaries. They expect for us to pay our taxes on time, our fair share of taxes on time. Go ahead.
Angela, no one is necessarily disagreeing with you, okay?
No, you said that we should go through the investigations. It's a waste of time and taxpayer money.
I'm saying is let's wait to see what both the Senate and the House investigations find. By the way, the House Republicans have been leading the charge, and so let's see what they find. But to be clear, the notion that somehow the IRS targeted just Republican groups is not true. They also targeted Democratic groups. So the reality here is this is not just about
Republican groups than Democratic groups, Chris.
I will cede you that point. I will cede you that point. But the point clearly is, let's figure out what happened here. Let's see what the investigations find, and if then there's still outstanding questions, then let's consider an independent investigation.
Angela, the IRS is also withholding the whereabouts of a former IRS staffer by the name of Andrew Strelka, who the House Oversight and Government Reform Committee is investigating for allegations that the tax agency targeted conservative groups for special scrutiny. Now, Strelka worked under Lois Lerner. He's alleged to have himself been involved in targeting conservative groups. How could this not be seen as a cover-up?
It's seen as a cover-up, Julie. And the bottom line is this. The president, again, I'm going to go back to the commander-in-chief because the buck stops with him. He's ahead of everything. And he said that he would have transparency and accountability. You cannot have accountability if you don't have transparency. And you and I mean, we're not working for the Department of Justice, and we see that it's suspicious.
All right, Chris, final word.
I mean, well, in terms of the IRS official who is somehow missing, if the House or the Congress wants to subpoena them, I don't know how they stay missing. I don't buy this argument that somehow the IRS has ensconced him somewhere that he can't get to Congress. Listen, at the end of the day, this is a equally frustrating issue for both, I would say, Republicans and Democrats. I know Republicans want, and like Angela wanted to like gin this up as somehow some grand conspiracy, but this is more. But this is more about the failure of government. And the idea of holding it accountable, I think, is a fair point, and that's something that both Democrats and Republicans can agree on.
Accountability and transparency, those are two things that we're not seeing much coming out of Washington these days. That's all the time we have, though. Angela McClowan, Chris Kofinas, thank you very much to you both.
Thanks, Julie.
Thank you.